Okay, going live. Are you gonna do it?
Do what? I'm sweet, pure, and innocent.
Wow. Wow. You're such of a good podcast co-host. Wait, is that what you are? What are you, anyways? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I'm an innocent bystander, I think.
Are you sure? Are you really sure? Wow, why am I so quiet? One second, I should have checked my audio levels beforehand.
I was promised a professional level, whatever the hell we're doing, and I'm now sorely disappointed.
Have you met me?
I guess.
Okay. Welcome to the stream, everyone who's here so far. We'll be getting started on the actual podcast shortly. Just kind of giving people time to walk in and go, what the hell are you people doing? Stories aren't that bad. Oh, secondary only free roam. Free roam. Words. Free
You want to
roam?
start with some sorties? Free roam.
What am I playing? A crappy Sony Online Entertainment children's MMO?
Oh, that's free realms. Wow.
I'm glad you got the deep cut.
Look, I'm an MMO nerd, okay?
I actually did play Free Realms.
Really?
I tried it, yeah.
You're one of the four, huh?
Yeah, like when they announced it, I was playing Star Wars Galaxies, and like at their live convention, we got players could listen to the conventions through the in-game voice chat. They do like a radio broadcast for it, which was kind of a neat idea. It's like a free ticket into the show.
Right.
And like they announced Free Realms, so I'm like, okay, that's really stupid. I have to play this game. Oh yeah, it's got to be an MMO geared towards family friendly content, and I was like, why? Like, okay, that's
Well, I mean, the concept is sound. I mean, this is kind of the same thing that the Nintendo Wii tried to do, where they wanted to go for what was thought to be an untapped audience. And at that point, keep in mind that RuneScape and MapleStory were pretty big at the time. So kind of the idea was that there's this market for an MMO. They kind of wanted to go, kind of get them early. To put it now to put it in scary terms, they wanted to get the kids early, get the kids brand loyal to Sony Online Entertainment, and then kids that grew up playing Free Realms would get an all access pass, and then later play PlanetSide or EverQuest 5000 or whatever is out at the time.
Too bad they didn't last long enough for their grand scheme to work.
Well, obviously Free Realms was not exactly a game that stood the test of time, and they had a lot of missteps. So, and to be fair, Sony Online did last a long time, as we've seen with the Telltale, closure recently. It's not easy, even if you have a lot of kind of beloved, popular games.
I just want to point out,
destroyed by mismanagement.
Right.
I just want to point out that the Daybreak website, the little title that it gets on Google, is the ultimate online gaming destination.
Right.
It's the ultimate destination for gaming.
Yeah.
Daybreak Games. I mean, when I think Daybreak, I'm not thinking, oh, this is going to be the best place to go for gaming. I'm thinking, ooh.
Look, I just want to play EverQuest. Shut up and take my money.
Right? Uh, like I went on their site just to see if like free roams was still a thing.
No,
No,
I
it's
shut
not.
down a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I barely pay attention to their break anymore because they just make me sad.
Yeah, and I don't pay attention to it at all. I just saw the news of the closure.
Yeah. But I mean, like, the theory is sound. What they wanted to do with Free Realms is just that the game never kind of took hold. And to be fair, it was pretty tough because like Disney had Toontown. There's a lot of games that kind of try to do very similar things, thinking, well, like I said, MapleStory and RuneScape were very popular with the younger crowds, and so.
I also tried Toontown.
Wow, you've tried all the failed little experiments like that.
It actually wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, I heard it was a pretty decent game, but yeah, I just didn't. It's probably one of those things that since Disney is bankrolling it, and Disney is used to having mega super huge blockbusters. The income from that was probably a rounding error to them, and they were like, no, it's more accounting headache to run it than to keep it going and then to shut it down. So.
Did Toontown get shut down too?
Yep.
I thought I saw someone playing it on Twitch a while back. Oh, like not a year ago. I don't know.
I mean, it's entirely possible that people have written
Like a
emulated
private
servers for
emulator,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nah.
I mean, these games have their fans, and if if there's enough fans that
Yep.
some of them are technical savvy, pretty much every game gets reverse engineered eventually.
Yeah, there's a private emulator up. I just looked it up.
Yeah,
It's called
I'm not surprised.
Toontown Rewritten. And yeah, like for a stupid like this was my first experimentation with free to play MMOs. Like before I found like the Korean ones and semi competent free to play MMOs. Like I was looking at like Toontown, Free Realms was free to play. That's when I started messing with Perfect World International, and we won't talk about that.
That's for a later episode.
Actually, that would make an episode all for itself. Let me write that down on my whiteboard.
But yeah. But I mean, like there's been a lot of attempts to do potentially interesting things. The big problem that you run into, I mean, it's funny because like from a business point of view, like MMOs have potentially big startup costs, but like those are no generally kind of no larger than kind of a typical single player big budget game anymore. And we have the experience now of running a live service, not just with MMOs, but web-based and mobile games that now have networked server games. But the problem is though, is like the scales are so skewed. We see the most popular Korean games, we see World of Warcraft, games like that, and the expectations are a game needs to perform to that level in order to be seen as worthwhile. And so and so like companies will shut down games that are underperforming, but that causes a lot of kind of like ill will. Kind of the perfect example of this would be like City of Heroes. Like NCSoft is pretty notorious for kind of cutting games off of the knees if they're not if they're unprofitable, but if they're not performing up to what they expect compared to their other games.
Oh yeah, that got a big kerfuffle.
Right, and like people really love the game, and like there's people that can trying to make it essentially a spiritual successor. What without, of course, violating any trademarks.
Yeah, I tried a Champions Online. I think it was called.
Yeah. Well, Champions Online was kind of like, so City Heroes is developed by Cryptic Entertainment. Champions Online was kind of their next game in the series.
Right.
Because the lead designer was a big tabletop nerd. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm a big tabletop nerd myself, but he wanted, he got the license to work with Champions, and he was very excited to do that. So they poured resources into making Champions Online, and
I didn't know that was a tabletop. Okay, that makes more sense.
yeah, and so, and they were able to, and the Champions Online was also, I believe that was designed to be free to play from the beginning.
Yes.
Where City of Heroes was a subscription game from the beginning. But yeah, so Basic Cryptic kind of let NCSoft take over running City of Heroes, and then basically focus their efforts otherwise. And then when Basic City Heroes kind of wasn't performing up to expectations, NCSoft decided to shut it down. But we haven't even started talking about the actual topic of the
Nope.
discussion tonight. So, were we gonna run sorties and pretend that we're competent while we're discussing this?
Oh, yeah, we can do sorties. If Minner's okay with that. Okay.
War assassination at the end.
Ooh. Well, I'm playing Haro, so that'll be easy. So
Yeah, DCC.
So for today's podcast, the actual we're actually starting the podcast now. We're talking about Bartle's 4 player types. And
right.
This is a concept I think is widely acknowledged at this point.
I mean, there's not so to put this in context, Bartle was the one that wrote the first text mud. He's a professor over in England, at Essex, and so he wrote a paper. Basically, I forget the technical name of it, but it's not something that's basically researched based on empirical evidence. It's basically like, here's my observations. I'm going to let somebody else potentially take this and and go and use my investigations to basically draw their own conclusions, and they can potentially do research to kind of prove it or disprove it.
It's a observational hypothesis.
Yeah, there you go. And so basically, it's based on him having several years of experience observing games.
Yeah, it says in the paper he was a senior administrator for the mud he was researching.
So yeah. And so, but yeah, he was the creator of the first text mud, which is sometimes called Mud 1. And then he wrote another version of that called Mud 2. The original game came over here, was on CompuServe, and it was called British Legends. And so I mean, he had years and years of experience, kind of just observing people and see how they work and what they do. So basically, he came up with 4 player types, keeping in mind. See how well this works. See how well my AMP works against the formalists.
I think it just most amps just sort of kill them.
Yeah, well, this is the new number 4 one that's full auto.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to build that.
Those devices draw energy from the bone ballists.
Oh my god, my frame rate help me.
To take control.
Yeah, like the number 2 isn't particularly good at killing them, I think. Or is it? Yeah, it's the number 1, not the modam, the next one up.
Well, the modem kind of sucks too, but
Well, yeah. Well, the modam kind of sucks at everything. It is not a
Right.
competent weapon.
right. It feels like a downgrade to the to your raw void beam. In fact.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of sad.
So anyway, so
it's
Bartle
British
came up with these.
engines.
Yeah. Well, so he created a lot of mods. So he has a lot of kind of, experience observing. But he created. Was this underground or above ground?
Oh, we're looking for the caches. It should be above ground, I would hope.
And so he had basically a lot of experience like observing, and so he kind of came up with these 4 player types based on his observations. And so he basically kind of had a plot with 2 axes. One axis was acting upon and interacting with, and the other axis was players and game world.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at that.
Yeah. And so if you're acting upon the game world, you're an achiever. If you're interacting with the world, you're an explorer. If you're acting upon people, you're a killer. If you're interacting with people, you're a socializer.
Actually, I can take a clip of this.
Yeah.
And put it up on the stream so people understand.
Yeah, that'd be great. And so he,
just ignore the horrible gameplay right now.
I mean, is anybody here watching for the gameplay?
God, I hope not.
Is anybody here just wanting to be disappointed? And so, so you have the 4 player types, and keep in mind, like this is his observations were mostly from the point of view of online gameplay. So all these motivations kind of explain why people play online games and not necessarily games in general. So for example, so Achiever is about kind of basically achieving, getting the most powerful character, collecting the rarest stuff, that type of thing, getting the most powerful weapons. The idea being that the achiever wants recognition of other people. They want to be recognized for having mastered the game.
They want to achieve.
Right. Explorers want to explore the game. That kind of includes both. That includes kind of both, like exploration of the map, what's over the next hill, but also game mechanic exploration. Killers, which are slightly misnamed.
Yeah, from what I read, it's kind of a misnomer.
They're more competitors or controllers. They want to compete with other people. They want direct competition with other people, and they want to kind of, like control the experience of other people, essentially.
Which, for an example of that, would be heavy PvPers or griefers.
Right. More PvPers. Griefers are kind of a little, a related motivation, but they're a little bit different.
Right.
In older games, there was, usually there's PvP. We called it PK, player killing.
I remember that.
Right, and so so people would that was basically why the kill. It's the basically why they call it killers, because their competition was trying to kill other people.
Take that supply beacon, and I will call in the jar.
Then you get the socializers, who are the people, like pretty obvious. They want to chat, they want to interact with people.
Well, that was easy.
Slicing feathers.
You got feathers?
Slicing feathers. It's the war fan stance.
Oh, I didn't even get a chance to pick it up.
Ah.
Well, it just ends like instantly.
Yeah, I know. Kind of surprised that it went so quick. What's the next one?
Interception, augmented armor.
Okay. Let me go get my Archoplasma.
Yeah.
And then kind of the last, yeah, so basically then you have the killers who are basically interacting, or acting upon other players. They want to compete, and then you got the socializers that just want to chat. So you see how these four player types. Like I said, it's mostly kind of from the perspective of, it's mostly kind of from the perspective of like how people interact with each other online.
Right. These are based on multiplayer environments.
And yeah, there's some subtlety to it because for one thing, like not everybody has a single motivation. There used to be this site called the Bartle test, which there might be something about it running online somewhere, but you would basically answer questions. It was generally more along the lines of, would you rather do A or B?
Here.
And so there's a
It's on the stream.
stream consult here.
Ooh.
And so yeah, so you basically would have
Limbo.
so you would answer questions, and then it would kind of give you kind of multiple motivations. It would basically kind of tell you what your motivations were. So basically, like when I took the test, I was mostly socializer with explorer and killer, and almost no achiever.
Yeah, I remember taking that a few
Go away,
years
this
ago.
is mine.
What was that?
This is mine. Go away.
Let's go on the offensive.
When I took the test, I was socializer with explorer and then achiever and very little killer.
Right. Yeah, I used to run a game that was very PvP heavy, so not entirely surprising that I have at least some killer in me.
Okay, everyone, just watch out for size. He's a little bit of a psycho.
You can go ahead and take that clip out of context, and I'm sure this will be great in the future parole meetings.
Somebody clip, please.
Yeah. Again, killer is a wonderful and terrible name all at once. The other interesting thing to note is that people kind of change over time. You can change motivations. Like Bartle actually wrote a book talking about virtual world design, and he kind of talked about as part of the refining his theory, he talked a bit about kind of a journey that people go through, like when they first start. I don't remember specifically, but I want to say it was when you first start, you basically focus very heavily on achiever, and then you kind of go through different stages until kind of at the end you tend to be mostly socializer, and that kind of makes sense in terms of games where you start playing the game, you want to gain levels and get up to highest level, and you want to do the rating stuff and all that.
And then over time, you kind of learn that it's kind of a fleeting effort.
Right, and and for a lot of people, kind of what they ultimately do like is basically their friends. They stick around for the friends. I mean, even in early games, like EverQuest, people joked, like the common refrain was that people were kind of tired of the game, but like, well, but my friends are here, so I'm gonna continue playing.
Right.
and even like when World of Warcraft kind of like was starting to kind of toward its peak of popularity in the West, a lot of people kind of compared it to social activities like bowling or golf. A very like an activity you kind of do where it's it's for most people is largely defined by the
people
social
they're
experience.
with. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like I'll agree with that. Like if I were to take the Bartle test back, like in Wrath of the Lich King days when I was doing hardcore raiding, I was definitely an achiever. But now if I took it, I actually had the test up. I could take it right now if I wanted to. I would probably be like 90% socializing and then maybe some exploration. I'd have very little achievement to me.
Right. I mean, I just don't like grinding for the sake of grinding. It's mostly about like playing with people I like.
Unless 14 has that one glam I have to have. Nah.
So the other interesting thing is that like a lot of time the motivations are a lot more kind of complex and varied than people think about. For example, and sometimes a very doing two people doing the same action can be done for very different motivations. Using the example what you just mentioned there about going and getting a glam. Like if you go and obtain a glam, is that what motivation is that?
Right. That's actually a really complex.
Killing people makes me giggle.
Well,
Clip it.
And now, yeah, none of us are ever getting parole after this podcast.
I don't know. I'm sweet, clean, and innocent. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, well, but yeah. So like so most people would kind of assume that going and getting glam would probably be a socializer.
To show it off.
Right, because like that's kind of the whole point. You kind of want to show it off. You want to be the talk of the town. You want other people to talk about you.
But then there could be people that want to get it just to have their completionist need fulfilled.
Right. It could be, yeah, exactly. It could be it could be explorer motivation to basically kind of have more tools, more, like, oh, I want this glam to see how it goes with other things, and see if it has some other effect in the game. It could be an achievement motivation where this glam shows that I did this very difficult thing, therefore I want people to see I have this glam and to acknowledge me as being very capable.
We just had a whole bunch of people join the stream, so
you want to reintroduce it?
Yeah. So we're talking about Bartle's 4 player types. It's a theory that everyone who plays a multiplayer game falls into one of 4 categories within a blend. Like everyone fits within all 4 of them to some degree. So we have the achiever type, the explorer type, the socializer, and then the killer. And I think most of them are mostly self-explanatory, even though we're going into great detail about them.
Right. Ooh, I was not paying attention. I got knocked down.
I see this.
Save me, senpai.
Why should I?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll let the tall stranger fucking do it.
No, that was me.
I said the tall stranger.
Dick.
You're stranger than the rest of us.
I had a wormhole to make it over to you. You should be appreciative of my waste of resources.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that energy not going to regenerate back for some reason? Wow. Right. So so basically, yeah. And that's a perfect example there. Like reviving an enemy. Like was it a socialist thing because I'm your friend, or was it an achiever thing because you want me to help continue contributing to this?
And the other thing I wanted to point out, we keep saying glams, and that's an aesthetic piece of gear in Final Fantasy XIV. They're also called transmogrifications in World of Warcraft. I figure that's a more commonly used term. So just for definition's sake. In case anyone was confused. Continue.
I'm very confused. Anyway, yeah.
That's my
and so,
So I have an interesting story, or a
Mhm.
not very interesting story, but
But you're gonna tell it anyway.
that's sort
So
of about
go ahead.
yes, about back when I played World of Warcraft, and I think this was Burning Crusade, pretty sure.
Message decoded. Leave none
And
behind. Clear
so,
out enemy forces.
in my guild, people there was other than doing it like once a week for just gear or whatever. After a while, most of the raiding guild didn't have any interest in
Good work
whatever
today.
is all
Not only have we decoded
what the
enemy
fuck.
transmissions,
And
we have also disrupted their communications.
so eventually it was just this group of alts and a couple of mains who were just doing it to clear it fast enough to get the bear. And at the time, only one alliance guild could clear it and get the bear, which wasn't ours. So we kept at it for a while, and I was my warrior alt, which was a gnome, was the first alliance character with a bear, but wasn't in that guild.
Nice.
And my brother, who was in that guild, was talking about how much one of the guys in that guild was bitching that an alt had the bear, because I was sitting on my gnome alt on the scaled up bear in the middle on the bridge in Ironforge, and apparently it really offended this guy
Nice.
that the alt had the bear. And I barely won that roll, but it was kind of funny.
Oh, where'd the bear drop from again?
It's all something in a.
Oh, the Zul'Gurub.
Has lived under suspicion.
The Zul'Gurub bear. I know what you're talking about.
Grants him powerful
Yeah.
abilities.
Okay, I remember that.
We cannot allow this.
Wow, was that Burning Crusade?
And eliminate him.
yeah, that was Ring Crusade.
Yep.
Wow.
To find the VIP.
What? Like,
So long ago.
well, because they redid Zul'Gurub and turned it into a dungeon instead of a raid in Cataclysm. So there's been 2 renditions of that content.
Oh, I guess I should go find the sensitive assist target.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I'll go kill Vor. It's fine. I see you.
No, you
Peekaboo.
Does he have his Janus key though? Can you tell me more about that?
You do not understand the power of the Janus key. Ah, keep getting hung up. Okay. So yeah, that's an example of an overachiever type, let's say.
Well, I mean, it's achievement because it's recognition for mastery, but yeah, but then like then you kind of have the basically kind of the bitterness of the achiever that didn't get that.
Ow.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he had one. He was just pissed that someone else
Oh,
in another guild got it, and then they gave it to someone's alt.
right.
I mean, considering the most that like probably like 3/4 or more that raid with alts anyway. I don't know who it was supposed to go to then.
Right.
Where did you die at?
I don't know. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, I'm looking around as well, but
Oh my god.
yeah,
I
they do.
suck.
They do. They've got that enhancement of impact damage.
Oh, do they? I wasn't even.
Paying attention.
Nope.
I wish you
Oh,
could see. I was surprised.
We're done. Okay. I didn't do that
Well,
shit.
I'm gonna keep
taking down the
trying to find the guy.
Oh yeah, we have the synthesis target still.
I literally have no idea where it. supposed to be going.
So back on topic.
Right. So the yeah, and so it's like it takes a while for people to kind of really understand um the nature of the Bartle types, because it's there's a surprising amount of depth to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, a lot of it's kind of based on like you said, one of the big things is keep in mind that it's about why people do things online, even though you can kind of apply it roughly to offline or single player games as well. There's another researcher, Nicole Lazaro, who has what she calls the 4 keys to fun, which map pretty closely to the Bartle types.
Like what people motivate themselves to do in single player games.
Right. So hers, let me take a look at this, because
I think I've read that. So
yeah, she has she has hard fun, which is basically about kind of overcoming challenges, which is a lot like basically the achiever mindset. Well, but the achiever mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You have easy fun, which is basically kind of like creative, very creative type of things, which basically maps fairly closely to the explorer mindset. You have people fun, which obviously maps pretty closely to socializer.
Yeah.
And then you have
Doors are locked. Time to break in.
Screw this.
Yeah.
I think it was much closer to the beginning of the mission or something.
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
And the last one she has is serious fun, which doesn't really map to killers very well.
But that's Sir's business.
Well, basically it kind of relates to this kind of concept of serious games, which are used to train people for training and education and learning. Which doesn't really map to killers very well. I got Infinity Booster. Oh, we got Infinity Booster. Yay!
Woo!
You know what that means?
Hydron.
I'm gonna be working up my amps because that's the only thing I have to level up at this point.
I gotta pop to Cetus at the reset. I mean, it does not be at the reset, but.
And so basically kind of the 4 types is a kind of a common system for people to kind of for classification.
Yeah, I need to step away just a moment.
Okay. But yeah, so like a lot of times, when we start looking at MMOs and MMO type games, understanding the 4 types can be important. One of the other thing to keep in mind is a lot of modern MMOs cater very heavily to achiever types. So if you read Bartle's original paper, which I can paste into chat. But you read Bartle's original paper, like a lot of what he talks about is about there should be a balance between the 4 types in a game, and understanding the balance.
Cosmic background radiation is a riot.
And so he basically at the bottom of the paper there's a chart that kind of talks about the flow of how change in the group can affect another group. So starting with achievers, if achievers increase in number, then that increases the killers. but if achievers decrease, it decreases the killers. The theory being basically the achievers are the killer's preferred, one of the killer's more preferred targets, because they just happen to be, they generally happen to be pretty numerous. As killers increase, they decrease socializers, and if killers decrease, then they increases socializers, and this has a pretty heavy effect on things, because basically the killers really like going after socializers, because socializers are the ones that are going to spread their infamy. You go and kill a socializer, they'll scream about it, and everybody will know your name. And kind of that infamy is why killers kind of like that. And so basically, and then kind of similar to achievers, as socializers increase, it increases killers, and if it decreases, it decreases killers. Socializers also have feedback loops where, as you get more socializers, that draws more socializers. People who like to talk to each other will, like it when more people show up to talk to. And similarly, as socializers decrease, it will decrease the number of socializers, because, all my friends are leaving, I might as well leave too. Kind of a little bit of the oddball is the explorers, where explorers are mostly only affected by themselves. As you get more explorers, you get more explorers. Because you get more people, kind of a community of explorers that are discussing with each other, investigating things, sharing information. Explorers have a very kind of minor effect on killers. Since the explorers know the mechanics very well, they tend to be very effective at shutting down killers. And like a lot of times the killers will basically use techniques that the explorers found themselves. So a killer that comes along and tries to basically harass an explorer will generally get harassed back in the same way, or maybe even shut down, because the explorer knows the counter to whatever behavior the killer is doing even better.
Yeah, I actually saw a lot of that kind of behavior in Star Wars Galaxies, where very much in particular that comes to mind is bounty hunting. Because you get the bounty hunter who acts like the killer, and they like the thing with bounty hunting is you never knew the player's name that you were hunting. You would only be able to figure out their position and then go after them. But the advantage that the bounty hunter would have would be that the victim wouldn't be able to engage the bounty hunter until the bounty hunter initiated combat with them. So I mean, this does do a little killer and a little exploratory, because the bounty hunter would be able to wait and stalk the target until they found like the right moment to strike the ambush. So like the smart bounty hunter, I knew some of them that would track their targets for hours until they found just the right moment to engage. So that would very much be a killer behavior to actively go out to control or attack another player. And also exploratory, because then they're also using knowledge of the game to find the biggest advantage they can get.
Right. So what's interesting is, like, again, like, there tends to be a lot of subtlety about like behavior, because like in a lot of older games you had PvP, but the PvP basically would not. PvP would basically, the behavior would not necessarily, the motivations would not be what you thought they would be. So, for example, in Ultima Online, they had what was called the notoriety system, or the Nodo system, and you had blues and reds, if I remember correctly. Blues were basically the innocents, and reds were people that had killed an innocent. So what was interesting is often the reds were not the quote bad guy killers. The reds were basically people who were basically kind of playing the game and having fun with it. The killers would actually be what were called the blue Nodo PKers, who would basically go around and just basically prey on any red names they could find. Because they could do this essentially without consequence. They could basically hunt any red names they wanted to without consequence. Besides, of course, the red names fighting back. And so basically, you kind of get people who went red for whatever reason because they wanted to fight other people, legitimately or whatever, who would then immediately get set upon by the killers who wanted to kind of, control others, spar with others, fight others. We had kind of the same thing in the game I had, Meridian 59, where people would basically kind of the same thing happened. A lot of times people would get flagged as murderers, potentially trying to protect friends or whatnot, and then other people would hunt the murderers down, which and this is kind of like a little bit of naive design, I think, where people thought, oh well, obviously people who hunt the innocent are the bad people,
Right.
and so the bad people need to be punished. When the reality was a lot more complex than that.
Right. That's kind of, I mean, in the same vein of the system not quite being what it should be.
Right.
Like low level, like I think back to old school WoW, where like low levels would get flagged for PvP for accidentally going to the wrong town, or taking a shortcut through the enemy town to get to where they're trying to go, and then having high levels just scouting out the area looking for low-B flagged players to murder.
Right. Because they could.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so like a lot of times, game design, and so like I said, if you see a behavior, you can't necessarily instantly say, oh, this behavior is this motivation. A lot of times you really need context. And this is the problem with a lot of like design, systems you design. The computers are really shitty at kind of determining motivation. Why is the blue player killing the red player? Why is the innocent killing the murderer? The assumption is, through the game system and the way it's implemented, that they're righting a wrong, when the reality is that no, actually this is somebody preying on somebody else who just happens to be a sanctioned target.
Right. Yeah, and Swig was like that because I was talking about the bounty hunting. Like anybody can put a bounty on anybody. Well, I mean, in order to put a bounty on someone, they have to have killed you in PvP.
Right.
Which that doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. If you were protecting your teammate or whatever, and you just happen to get the killing blow.
Right. Yeah, and so the other interesting thing I kind of mentioned is that a lot of games tend to kind of be very laser focused on catering to the achiever mindset, the achiever motivation. A lot of games are very much set up, you work up a character, you get up to max level, then at max level, then you go do the real game, which is, raiding or grinding or, collecting glamours, whatever kind of, is interesting to the individual. But a lot of times, the game is focused on displaying mastery. And so what's interesting then is that you get, like, everything in the game tends to kind of be viewed through that lens. I think the best example of this would be WildStar. WildStar's pretty interesting because you had the different professions. You had 4 different professions, which roughly map to Bartle's 4 types.
Yeah, even in the game, it defined them by the 4 types.
Right. Interestingly enough, they actually never talked to Bartle about this. They never, he does consulting, and they never hired him as a consultant. But the problem, of course, was that they really didn't cater to the different motivations. The only thing they kind of really did is they just they put each of the motivations in terms of achievement, where everything everything was based essentially about achievement. So like you had the another great game for this would be Guild Wars 2, where it focused pretty heavily on achievement. And so like for example, they had these points of interest, like, it was just one of the things you could do in a zone in order to kind of complete it, was to go visit the points of interest. And some of these were kind of behind, not terribly difficult, but still still kind of something to do. Jumping puzzles. And so like
I loved those jumping puzzles.
Well, yeah, there was also the actual jumping puzzles, but like there's the minor jumping puzzles to get some of those points of interest. The problem was that basically it kind of like the game kind of presented this to you as the actual thing, as actual exploration, when it really wasn't. The game actually had legitimate exploration where you could basically go in and basically there was places that were basically not marked on the map. You could go explore them, but because it had all these points for you to explore in an achievement style in order to kind of check off and get 100% on the zone, it kind of obscured the fact that there were these explorer locations on the map. Kind of same thing with WildStar. Sure, you were doing things that were arguably related to exploration,
But it was to complete the checklist and get the profession levels.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, yeah, they did have, like, the professions did have, like, end game purposes, but it didn't encourage, because I did get, like, into the end game on WildStar at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a weak veil of concept that they fulfilled their, like, quote unquote style or whatever you want to call it. But it didn't, like, encourage the actual activity.
Right.
Like, explorers could open up, like, hidden passages or shortcuts to get to a particular part of the map faster, for example. And socializers could build settlements where other people could come up and get buffs off of it. Which, I mean, yeah, that's socializing. Like, that is kind of like what a socializer would do, but it's not. The game system didn't do it because that's what people wanted to do. The game system did it because it was a necessary mechanic for people to get buffs.
Right. The achievers aren't going to stop and talk with the socializer for doing this. The achievers are going to run by, get their buffs, maybe say a generic thank you on their way back that the person may or may not hear because they're out of range.
Right. Like you set up the station to buff yourself, basically, and then other people can just walk up and get for themselves as well. Like,
right.
It was a very self-centered system. And then they had the. It wasn't called the Achiever. I think it was called the Engineer. Was able to pick up lore bits. I think that was the Achiever. Yeah, because then you could, like, you had a checklist of game lore that you could unlock, and then you could get more information about that particular area, which, I mean, could be argued be more exploratory, but it didn't, like, fit cleanly So, and I don't even remember what the fourth one was. The fourth system. I think it was like archaeologist or something. It was stupid. But
Right, but but the thing is like everything, all this stuff was basically kind of designed through the lens of achievement. Like, how does it help achievement? Um, I mean, because kind of a flip side of that was, I started talking about Star Wars Galaxies. Star Wars Galaxies had the Dancer class,
oh yeah.
and like that actually was more of a socializing thing because.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. I was just surprised because we actually have someone who still has the beam instead of an amp.
Oh. Heretic.
I just think it's kind of cute that we have a newbie with us.
Oh, isn't he cute?
Must protect newbie.
Must protect precious cinnamon bun.
And so the dancer class. So that dance class in Star Wars Galaxies actually did help socializers because the socializers stood one place. They did something for other players, basically healed permanent damage. And then the people had to kind of sit in place, and so they were actually encouraged to talk to people because what else you gonna do? Maybe besides go AFK and grab a drink or whatnot, and so
And they made credits. Like people would tip them millions of credits for their services if they were nice and social and
right. And so like Star Wars Galaxies actually did a pretty good job of implementing a socializer type system of gameplay. But of course the problem you run into is that achievers tend to be all about the efficiency.
right.
And so if you add in inefficiencies like this, achievers start getting very cranky about it because in their mind you're putting up fake obstacles,
Artificial
artificial obstacle. Yeah, right. When everything in the game is artificial.
Right.
Like there is no everything in the game is designed to game you could log on to have a high level character with all the raid gear if that's what the designers wanted to. It's artificial that you can't
Oh god.
So yeah, it's just one of those things that getting a lot of endo. That's good. Yeah, and so basically, it becomes a thing where you people gonna get, like you said, get kind of upset when you start putting in what they feel is these artificial hindrances to them achieving.
Actually, Star Wars Galaxies is a really good example of a game that kind of provides for everyone. Because thinking about it, crafters were really good for exploration, believe it or not.
Right.
Because in order to get resources, they had to put out extractors to mine for them, and
right.
And every world had a grid for resource rarity and richness.
Right.
That the only way to find the best resources was to go out and explore the map and survey until you found a 99% node.
Right.
And then you put down your extractors. So like explorers could, theoretically go out, find these nodes, and then, tell the crafters where to set up.
Right.
If they really wanted to.
Right. And so so this is the potentially interesting thing is that you get different types of gameplay that when it actually caters to the different motivations, it tends to kind of work a lot better.
Yeah, and I remember going out and doing that. I wouldn't I had a crafter, but I didn't do extractors because I was a droid engineer, and
Here's the officer.
most of the stuff that I built was not stat based because I sold speeders, and speeders didn't need resource stats to work. You just need resource. So I just go out, buy the cheapest stuff I could find on the market for in bulk, and then just go to town. So like I'd have like extractor slots that I wasn't using on my crafter, so my guild would rent extractors from me basically. And so like they'd go out, find the nodes, and then tell me where to put my extractors.
Right.
And then I'd give them permission to have like administrative rights to them, so they could manage them themselves. And all my involvement was they were my slots.
Right.
Which was kind of a nice system that you could do that.
Right. Right. And so for you, it became more of a social type of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Our prisoner is on the
Because you're helping friends and allies and whatnot. So
Tenno, with you've gathered, I've managed to pinpoint the chopper's location.
Find the prisoner. Oh boy.
so yeah, so but like most games, they more tend to kind of hyper focus on the achiever mindset. I think again one of the things that really helps.
But be warned, the prisoner has been strapped with
I think one of the things that kind of helps, like Final Fantasy, like when you kind of do things that are a little bit different, like I think we were talking about the other day, like Final Fantasy, like being able to kind of advance a single character, multiple classes on a single character, really kind of helps a lot of the exploration aspect, because being able to master multiple classes on one character allows you to gives you more tools to kind of explore and investigate.
Yeah, like I guess because I'm thinking like because the player types are such of a complex thought. It really is a complicated thought. What would getting certain classes to reduce queue times fall under?
How do you mean?
Well, I guess it depends on, it's a question of intent. Like, if you level up a tank for the explicit purpose of making it so that you and your friends can queue faster, that would be a socializing
Right.
behavior.
Right. If you're doing it so you can advance a character faster to get if you're doing it for the purposes of getting out, getting a character up to higher levels faster in order to go participate in content, well, that would be an achiever thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a hard time kind of imagining a motivation for that for killer.
Yeah, that's like 14 doesn't cater to killers very well, other than PvP.
Right. Well, most games don't, and PvP
Rust.
tends to kind of be. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean. I'm talking about specifically MMOs, but there have been a couple games that have like really kind of let you cater more toward the letting you kind of control the experience of other players.
That would be like the Rust or Arc. Arc would be really good for that.
Right.
We can literally handcuff people. I mean, I think that's like the literal embodiment of the killer.
Right.
Okay, when I play Arc, I do turn into a killer. Now that I think about it. Even on my own team. Ooh. But that's the thing. Like certain games will, like, just inherently unlock that personality trait in some people sometimes.
Right. You know, giving you. Well, I mean, like certain games do kind of have certain leanings. A game that has more kind of developed PvP options would obviously kind of tend to attract the killers. But yeah, keeping in mind that there are some killers that don't want fair play. They just want to, dominate other people and smash their faces into the ground and
Yeah,
listen to them scream.
you talked about that a lot when you were talking about Meridian.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, basically, there was a lot of people that just like, they wanted that. They wanted so like in his book, Bartle kind of like adds another axis to the graph. Basically, he added the what do you call it? The intrinsic versus extrinsic axis, and this is basically along lines of whether you kind of you're self-motivated or you're motivated by others. And so, uh, and trying to think of a good way
Words.
to right. He basically gave them new names, based on the thing, and so it never kind of really caught on. I mean, it's an interesting thing, and it kind of does add kind of a missing dimension to it. But
Anyone to take that on. Early
Oh.
lunch for council.
One sec. I'm gonna drop group and re-invite.
sure. So I guess looking at the achiever type, an intrinsic achiever generally wants to kind of like just get to higher levels. They're motivating themselves to basically to demonstrate mastery because they inherently want to be recognized for their mastery of the game. An intrinsic motivated achiever would be like a raider. Like they want to get mastery because the raiding group wants them to.
Kanzu's favorite gun.
Right, they're trying to master for their group,
Right.
which makes sense.
And so right, and so basically they're motivated because of their group rather than just it being completely internal. And kind of the same thing whether you're doing it for yourself or for other people. So
now that does bring, like, immediately what comes to my mind is that playing with the concept of the intrinsic and like the concept of the intrinsic socializer. Like on the surface that sounds like oxymoronic, but I think that plays more on like an emotional, like a self need to have friends kind of a deal. I think that on its own can actually be like an entire psych paper,
Right. Motivation. Well, and what's interesting is like the killer controller type of personality. One other interesting aspect of it is the idea of like a den mother. People talk about where they the very motherly type that was like, oh, have you been eating? How are you doing? Talking about your significant other being terrible to you. Is that better now? Someone who's kind of like that nosy busybody, and not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way that
I think this cache is underground, inside the cave. Oh no, it's one of these ones. I hate these ones.
Same.
Oh, and I have all the parts to make the next amp. I just need the materials. I don't have any Escher Devar,
Ah,
so I'll have to farm that up probably after we're done the podcast.
yeah. So basically, but like I said, like like the Den Mother type is actually kind of a killer controller type. Uh, but obviously with a socializer,
Motivation.
right, with a socializer kind of twist to it.
Because they kind of want to have like a socializing control over,
Right, right,
or to the need to be in the know about every aspect.
right. Okay, very kind of dominating type of behavior.
Huh, that's actually a really interesting
Right.
line of thought there. I hadn't thought about that. That's actually kind of, deep.
Yeah.
Oh
I mean,
god, deep
there's
thought.
a
I'm
lot
getting scared.
Right. Yeah. Thinking too much. MMOs have not taught me how to think. This is scary.
No, WoW has not prepared me for this deep thought.
Wah, wah, wah. Yeah. So like so you generally have kind of this and as a designer then like the important thing the important thing I take away from this is that you really want to design for more than just very simple the simplistic aspect of it. Like you really kind of need to understand if you're going to use this theory, you want to understand it more than just
Do things to get things.
right. Don't look at everything from a simple achiever point of view. Understand there's a lot of complexity to it. If you're building a socializer space, which is not a great idea because it I find the last one.
That's the last
Nice.
flash.
I was like really trying to fret there.
Yeah. But if you're building a social space, which like like a lot of places tried to build kind of pure social spaces. If you want to build a social space, like the socializer motivation, is pretty complex. It's not just people who want to chat. In Bartle's type, like the important thing was that it wasn't just people coming together to ask each other age, sex, and location. It was about people kind of coming together and having a common bond, and that common bond generally being the game.
Oh god, I'm just having like Second Life flashbacks.
Right. Yeah. So like without kind of a focus on a theme, then things kind of meander, we'll say politely, and
Oh,
people focus on.
I'm glad I'm streaming right now because I do not know what I'm seeing right now. Part of the world is missing, and I don't know how to feel about this. Huh. Yeah, and I think that's like Final Fantasy XIV's like major flaw is that it's catered for achievers. Like game system wise, it is catered almost exclusively to achievers. And then like the socializers, I not to like stereotype into categories, but the socializers mostly turn into role players. I mean, not entirely, but they're a good example of socializers.
Right.
Are the role players, and then like the explorers, I would say turn into like progression groups trying to figure out boss mechanics to some degree, but that's not really fair. But the game is so heavily achiever oriented. It's I like if I were to make a graph, like a circle graph,
Mm-hmm.
like it would be so far up into the achiever category that it would be hard to find the other categories to be satisfied.
And this is true for a lot of games, to be fair.
Yeah.
Not just 14, but like World of Warcraft is very much in the same vein, where it's very much in the same vein where it focuses a lot on the achiever mindset, and so generally what happens, and I actually wrote a bit on my blog about this. So what happens is that if you look at Bartle's paper and basically how the balance of the groups work, like if you focus on achievers and you grow the achievers group, well, that also grows socializers. Great, and socializers can exist outside of roleplay. These are just the people that kind of like, hey, you want to go run leveling? Nah, I'm just gonna sit here and chat with people. I want to talk with my friends.
The location is obvious. Wait.
Right.
And so,
Don't let them retake this territory.
but the problem is, if you focus on achievers, you also get a lot of killers. You get the people that kind of want to dominate other people, that want to kind of compete.
And then you have a game that hides vanity items behind PvP.
So the problem is that when you have a lot of killers and you don't have a very good outlets for them, this is where you get the griefers.
Right.
You get griefers basically when you have killers who are basically frustrated because they have no outlet in the game.
And that was very prevalent in like Final Fantasy 11, which
right
had such limited PvP.
Right, and this is kind of the big thing in EverQuest 2, where you'd have people who trained other people and would bring trains of monsters to other people to get them overwhelmed and killed. Sometimes it was a kind of an asshole thing in order to break their camp, so you could move in on their camp,
which in a lot of games was a bannable offense.
Right. Well, this is the problem, of course, is that it took a lot of resources, and so this is kind of where you get a lot of the hate toward griefers, and because a lot of games really didn't have very good tools for it. I'd say there's a lot of games still don't have very good tools for it, where we treat it as a social problem rather than as a game design problem.
Right.
We give people kind of tools to block other people, or kick other people out of groups or whatnot.
Or have minor tools like aggro leashes.
Right. So basically, like restrict the obvious, the traditionally obvious types of griefing that people have done, but that doesn't stop them from calling your mother a whore or anything like that, just to kind of enrage you.
Right.
Or do the classic I'm not touching you type of behaviors, where where they don't do anything that's clearly against the rules, but stuff that's still annoying and stuff that like
the intent of it is to aggravate.
Right. Even if it's not explicitly aggravating in outside of context.
Oh, and anyone in the chat, if you have questions, comments, if you have a thought that you'd like to share for us to, explore, feel free to, pipe in. If you just want to tell me that I suck at Warframe, that's okay too.
You suck at Warframe.
I know.
Not as much as I do, but you still suck at Warframe.
Okay, that's acceptable.
You'll agree to that, huh?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and so this is the problem, is that as we've kind of the natural predators of killers are the explorers, and a lot of gameplay does not cater very well to explorers. Like you said, kind of you get a little bit of kind of the nod toward them in 14, with being able to master multiple
Classes.
classes on a single character.
And I think that would go like more in hand with the crafting classes. Even at that, like mastering the crafting rotations.
Right. Well, I mean, most of the crafting classes play very similarly to each other, so.
Right.
Now
I wouldn't know. I don't do crafting. I refuse to do crafting. Well, gathering, I guess, too. Fishing? Fishing.
Destroy the console, we'll never get the vault.
Fishing. Yeah, let's talk about fishing, cuz like that's learning, figuring out the tugs and the mooches, and then which patience to use. And there's no like handbook for those. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a couple sites. Cat Got Hungry
Oh yeah.
being the big one I know of.
But not always
Cat being
reliable.
I mean, obviously there's there's sometimes a lot more subtlety that like, or like people will do post up essentially hypotheses and then they'll be proven wrong.
Hold tight and protect
But honestly,
the
I
vault.
think
More
like
gear are coming your way.
just talking about gathering for a second. I think 14 makes gathering way too intensive of an activity.
I think, in my opinion, like I think that in general gathering's not too bad. I don't like fishing. And the main problem with fishing, in my opinion, is that it, if I want to go get some item. Wow, scrub. Fuck up.
I fell in the water, I respawned, and then I died instantly.
Say I want to go get iron ore. I know where to go get iron ore. Some materials are hidden behind time nodes, which suck really bad.
Grenier troops were desperate for those
But
supplies. Let's see if that got a reaction.
I don't like time nodes. But I mean, like, I know where to go
You've left
in general, and like, the time nodes are kind of the exception to this. And and generally, you have to kind of go to an external website in order to figure out the timing of when time node is going to be around and whatnot. Sure, whatever.
Track them down.
Fishing, however, if I want a specific type of perch, like I have to go to a place. Even if I have the right lure, the right time, the right weather, everything like that, I throw everything in, I may not get the perch.
Yeah, you'll get one of 3.
Right. And so that's kind of a very kind of unsatisfying. Like, I want to get. Let's see. If I want to get, if I want a, usually like if I want to fish, I want a specific type of fish. And so going there and trying to kind of like, keep on fishing until I get the fish. And then on top of that, keep on fishing until I get the high quality version of that. Maybe I might want that for a recipe.
I think you're going about fishing wrong. Basically, I mean, fishing is not intended to be the go place, throw rod, get thing.
Right. But the problem is, though, is that, if you need it for a recipe.
Like if you're trying to get your
That's what
raid
the
food
market
made.
board is for.
What was that?
That's what the market board is for.
Right. Oh, I mean, obviously the problem, of course, is that not everybody goes and fishes the thing that you want. You might want, if you want something that's
Then maybe you should socialize with a fisher. I mean, I can sit here and do this all day.
Well, to be fair, back in the Realm Reborn, when I was playing on Sargatanis, you couldn't get the raid food because nobody was selling it because the entire server was a legacy server, so everyone had actually stockpiled from the conversion of 1.0 to 2.0. So all the guilds were all completely self-sufficient because all their level was transferred over. So you like every guild would have at least a handful of Omni Crafters, Omni Gatherers, level 50 everythings. So they didn't have a reason to go out and
gather more stuff,
or interact with external groups. Everyone was very insular in that sense.
Right.
And a lot of them wouldn't even bother selling their materials because they were using it for raiding or just using it for internal use so that they didn't need to buy anything.
And thus, the argument against legacy servers is born.
Basically. And so I joined on Sargatanis I played in the beta for 2.0, and then I officially subscribed about 6 months afterwards. It was about 2.2, I think. 2.2, maybe the very beginning of 2.3. I don't remember. And like for me to get anything done, I had to rely solely on my friends from Sargatanis because they had everything and I couldn't actually afford to buy anything because what was actually listed was so outlandishly inflated that it was not feasible for me to even get the amount of gil that I needed to buy the things that I needed because there was no there was not a good flow of gil on the server at the time. It's gotten better now with server transfers and with the expansions creating new economies. But at the time, it was very stagnant economically.
Apparently, the best thing for Neos are the ghoul bounty, but 30 to 50 ghoul bounty, and then for Lith, the 15 to 25 ghoul bounty, and for Meso, it's the 20 to 40 bounty, and for Axie, it's the 40 to 60 bounty. For a given, value of whatever.
Okay, if you just want to run ghouls, I guess. We can do that.
Sure.
Which ghoul?
The 30 to 50?
40 to 50? Yeah, we can do that.
Or whatever it is.
We can do that. Ooh, everything's kind of slowing down just a little bit.
Otherwise, I'm sure we could probably find a endless mission that we could just do for relics.
Yeah, I mean, I need polymer bundles anyways if we just want to run some dark sectors or something. But yeah. Oh, did Sai AFK on us? I think he AFK'd on us. Hi, Pumpkin. How are you doing today? Let's get some chat interaction going on here. Yeah, I've been messing around with Haro, and he's actually a pretty fun frame.
If only I could get his eyes or whatever the part that I'm missing.
Yeah, I got super lucky on a defection run. He's kind of like an alternative Trinity. A less boring Trinity, I should say. Because he has the energy vampire and the healing. But he's all just buff management. Which is pretty neat. I got a nice ribbon for Synapse, so his whole stick is getting headshots to increase the value of his buffs. So getting a good precision weapon on him helps a lot. I'm sitting here just taking the Bartle test. Sorry for the quiet, but I'm just sitting here messing with this test. We'll get back into the talky talk stuff in a moment.
Things die when I'm away, huh?
Yeah, it really does.
Let me give me 1 second. I want to swap out a weapon. Sorry about that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm not sorry about that.
Uh-huh. Was the test itself developed by Bartle?
No, he had nothing to do with it.
Okay. Because I'm just like running through this. I'm like, this test is not a well-defined test. Just
No, it's not. I mean, it's basically kind of more so. I mean, even back in the hit kind of supposed to be more of a thing for fun.
Right.
than
Because
a serious
like
technological.
I am an avid test taker. I went to college. No. But like going through like a multiple choice questionnaire. If you have 4, it would be better if it was a 1 of 4 option test.
Right.
That would make much more sense. Because sometimes the questions posed, like, oh, what was one of them? It was which do you enjoy more in an online game? Getting the latest gossip or getting a new item?
Right.
What if it's neither? Like,
Right. Well, I mean, you would enjoy one of those more than the other.
right. It's just like, it's not like.
But you may not enjoy either one of them in particular, yeah.
It's not intuitive questioning.
Right, right.
It's very abstract, and I'm just like, I mean, with some refinement, it would be better. But
so like, you know, you can if you can find that the original site that ran that basically put the questions out. I might have the questions in a format. You go through and basically look at the data and adjust the questions and whatnot.
right.
You're saying? Or
If
not?
you want to know something, here's a funny anecdote that's tangentially related. So again, back in WoW, both in WoW and City of Heroes, I went through a phase where people, despite knowing my gender, would believe, because people weren't using voice servers or whatever, and I didn't have a mic, even if there was, people wouldn't believe that I was actually a guy. Yeah,
The
so-
age-old issue.
So, but no, they wouldn't believe I was actually a guy for some reason. It seemed how I wanted to be desperate to believe that I was a girl for some reason or another.
I actually know exactly that.
So there was
feeling.
this one officer who was a woman, and she asked me like some questions. She asked me about like gossip or whatever. I told her I wasn't interested, and she was like, "Oh well, obviously you're a guy then." I'm like, okay.
No, like the biggest
I'll just take
gossipers
your word
I know
for
are
it.
guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Right.
off.
It's funny about the stereotype that people carry from outside and inside the game. Like women like to play healer types. Well, no, not always, but
No, like the most vicious PvP killers I know are women. Like, but the thing is, they hold grudges when you beat them. They're like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fucking kick your ass. Okay, I'm not playing with you anymore.
right. Calm down. It was just a game.
It's just a prank, bro.
Right.
Create a distraction. Move in and eliminate a group of dual burial grounds.
But no, like, I actually mostly play female characters, and most people, like, if I say I'm a guy, they're like, no. No, there's no way.
The soil near your location. Locate and eliminate the threat.
I'm like, just because, you know, you're not, like, constantly trying to prove your E-peen.
Does not instantly make you a girl.
Oberon optics, that's exactly what I needed.
Well, you know, the weird thing is, you know, in terms of like stereotypes or whatever, I didn't play healer. That pure, you know, I PvP'd a lot in World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure. My character was female.
That was basically it, huh? Well, I mean,
I
and there
played a
was
feral druid. I mean, I'm not sure what.
well, obviously people play druids.
Obviously.
I was vaguely polite.
That does it.
That's not a gender thing, I can assure you. Why is this target this far away? Oh, because the burial grounds.
Yeah, gender and gender assumptions are always kind of a funny thing on in games. I think one of my favorite stories related to this is when I was running Meridian. I had to punish somebody for some bad behavior, and they were like, "Oh, but I didn't do that." And I'm like, "I got
The logs.
right, I got logs, I got all these other things," and like, I noticed in this time that there was a different IP address logging into your account. Does anybody else have access to your account? And the person was like, "Oh, my boyfriend, but he wouldn't do that." And I was like, "Oh, honey, listen." Yes, he would.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, basically.
No, he's the sweetest person in the world. I can't believe he could do something like that. Like, people are
Yeah.
horrible. Like,
It was just one of those things. Just like, oh, I'm gonna have to be the one to tell you this. I'm like, he probably did. Sorry, I'm gonna have to hand down punishment. And it was like, basically, suspend the account for a few days.
right.
Actually, usually we just did the character, unless somebody did something particularly egregious. We just made it so that you can play the character for a bit. When everybody had 2 characters at least on their account, so it's like, go the other way, go play your alt for a bit.
Oh, that's interesting. Character-specific suspensions.
Yeah, well, we would put the character into this place called Out of Grace with the gods, or OG.
GM jail.
Basic GM jail, yeah. And so, they basically couldn't get out of it. It basically would block any teleportation spells out. The only way you could get in or out of there was basically a GM or an admin pulling you in there. So,
Right.
And so so basically it was we would just like leave the character in there for a certain amount of time, and then we could take them out after the punishment was over. Usually we get 24 or 48 hours. But in the context of a PvP centric game, that could be potentially pretty bad, because that was 24 hour, 48 hours. That was a day or two that you weren't able to participate in any guild wars that your guild was in. You couldn't, you couldn't go gather resources.
Oh no, but my fishing.
We didn't have fishing in Meridian.
Thank good for
That
you.
explains so much.
Mhm. Most of the resource gathering was basically going and killing monsters for spell reagent drops.
Gotcha. Old school grinding.
Got the stubble blueprint
Woo!
drop. I think I've already built that one.
Yet another machine pistol in a game full of machine pistols. I
I
actually like the stubbo, but still, that describes it.
Steel Meridian have identified a ghoul who may be a candidate for defection. Unfortunately, the Grineer have already come to the same conclusion. I need you to rescue this individual before it's too late. You've been detected. Hurry up and free the prisoner before that collar explodes. The guards are down. Defuse the collar. You freed the prisoner. Now escort them to safety.
Oh my god, what is wrong with this Grineer? This is terrifying. I'm taking a screenshot of that. That is horrifying. Like, this person just needs to be put out of their misery. Like, I'm so sorry for you, you poor creature.
I mean, they are a ghoul, right?
Oh, where's the... Okay, there we go. I was waiting for them to teleport. The point.
Yeah, they got dropped down the hole over here.
Ducky, go down the hole. Oh, there's a hole here.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think this is the last cave I had to explore for the achievement.
I mean, I've gotten that achievement. I just didn't know that there was that was an entrance. Huh.
Yeah, there's a side entrance over here as well.
Neat. So, I don't know. Do we have any more to explore on the subject?
So I mean, so one of the things I've been always wanting to do is I've wanted to do a game that didn't focus so much on achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a few ideas I've had along the lines of this thing is basically one design I want to play around with is basically not having currency in a game.
Mm-hmm.
The idea being where wealth kind of becomes a stat for the player. Kind of a part of the inspiration for this would be like the part of the inspiration for this is basically like the World of Darkness games, where you have basically you have a stat called resources,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of like having your character carrying $12,803.28, you basically would have resources too that kind of gave you an idea of what your character could afford. There's a stat that could be rolled, and you could basically you could liquefy your resources, take dots away in order to basically afford something that's too much for you to afford normally.
Right. So it'd be kind of like a status stat. Like what's your status in the economy?
Right. And or even just status in the because I mean like it's one of those things where you have like the world is gripped by war and we're fighting for survival and the merchant still wants 500 gold pieces for the sword upgrade that would really be useful for me to win the war, but no, the merchant needs his money.
Right.
Alright.
I need to step away again real fast. Ugh.
So yeah, like I'd like to do a game where you have I'd like to do a game where you don't have we don't have currency, where basically you earn it as kind of a separate stat. The idea being that you could the idea being that basically you could you'd work up the stat. It'd be another thing, kind of like level. You just work up. You do quests to increase your standing or your wealth stat. But this would kind of reduce some of the achiever motivation, because gold money tends to be another kind of score that people kind of keep track of. The problem you run into is like, how do people kind of interact with each other? How do people like when your friend starts playing, how do you gift them something to kind of give them a little bit of a leg up? I think it makes it potentially makes a lot of sense both from a gameplay point of view of like not having to count individual pieces of gold that you collect from enemies, but also for story reasons where it makes kind of a little sense for you to have to go and barter with a merchant to get the equipment that's going to help you save the world.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so what do we want to do next? Do we just want to go find an endless to run?
Sure.
I need polymer so we could run Saturn, I think it is. Relics pop out of there, if I remember correctly. Ooh, daily rewards. Woo!
I got me some Morphics.
I got me some endo.
5 endo. Are you rich now?
300. Thank you very much. Fuck off.
Oh,
I
wow,
know.
300.
I know.
Whoa. I don't think I'm worthy to hang out with you anymore.
Wait, in order to craft an idling lens, you need a greater focus. Oh, because it enhances it. That's right.
Yep. And we got the Breath of the Eidolon, so you can...
I have like 40 of those. That's not open.
Next year will be all special and shit.
Was there any Iridite and Estradivar? I'll farm that off stream. That's actually not that big of a deal. Oh, I don't have enough Cetus Wisps for everything.
That happens.
Or maybe. Oh, I just barely have enough Cetus Wisps. Awesome.
Woo! To do what?
To build the tier 4 amp that I want.
On this.
Orders has completed a blueprint.
I just need to get some Iridite and some Estradivar, which actually isn't that bad.
No, Ashtavar is the common stuff. So,
Yeah.
but again, this kind of goes back to my complaints about fishing, mining, and it actually is kind of opposite in Warframe compared to Final Fantasy, where mining is like total grab bag. But fishing, like if you want a specific fish, you can kind of go to certain areas, and you can even choose to only spear the specific fish.
Right. And it's not that bad. The hard thing with fishing in Warframe is getting the fish to spawn.
Right.
Which I think I think the boosters affect the fish spawn rates.
Possible.
I haven't really been able to get one to test that out. But I'm pretty sure. Actually, do I have enough for a booster? No. Darn.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get a drop rate booster.
But you spent all your money on your inventory slots.
Yeah, how many inventory slots do I have now? Too many. I wish. How great would that be if you had too many inventory slots in Warframe?
I don't think that such a thing happens.
3.
Of course, I stopped deleting after I started doing clan research and building weapons that needed Forma. Well, that reminds me, there was a Forma alert earlier today. I forgot to go on. I don't know.
My phone went off. My phone went off, alerting me that Foundry items were complete. And I got up to check my phone.
Away from the game.
What, I could have just walked over to my Foundry. You're like, yes. Yes, Foundry items are complete.
I think I turned off notifications for that at this point.
I still use them, like if I'm building a Warframe or something and I'm away from the game.
I just keep in mind when it's going to build and I'll just come back for it.
Did Midori AFK?
Quite possibly.
Oh no. We are abandoned. We are forsaken. Whatever will we do?
No, your thingy expired when I tried to accept it.
Well, whose fault it? No, I'm kidding. There you go. What?
Oh, host not found. Host not found.
Okay, hold on. Let's try this. Wait a second. Where only?
Host not found.
Let me restart real fast. See if that fixes it. Jeez. So, what part of this multiplayer experience, which personality type would it be?
Socializer, obviously. We're trying to play with friends here.
You just have to be all logical and shit.
I do, in fact.
Oh, apparently I do have the Harrow eyeballs. I need his innards. That's the part I'm missing.
Oh, yeah. You have to run the defection missions for that.
I hate defection.
Pretty much. We had to run a lot of, we were running a lot of defection missions just
We were doing it at least once or twice a day.
Yeah, for a while.
For like a week.
I have received word from Kanzu. A fested boil.
Okay, let's try this
has
again.
threatened the plains of Eidolon. It has grown back, uglier and more putrid. Remain on standby. I may need you at a moment's notice.
Yay, it worked. Woo! Wee-hoo. Okay. I guess we can try Uranus, unless you just want to do like some ODS.
Is there... ODS might be fun.
Okay.
Because we still need the mutagen samples for clan research.
Yeah.
That drops from ODS. I was gonna say, you mentioned Saturn. I wouldn't mind doing something Saturn because, always need more fucking Oricon cells.
Oh yeah, it's Uranus that I need for Uranus.
Look.
Well, cells dropped from ODS too.
Yeah.
Anyone grab a Necros?
Nope.
Fuck. Oh.
Such is life.
You must prepare cover for a lone Tenno operative. Set off the alarms and keep the infested busy.
So oh wait a second. Let me pop this first. Yeah, I like. I don't know. Do we have any more for the podcast subject?
I mean, we can start rambling about other topics besides the Bartles 4 types if
Yeah, I'm just making sure we've fully explored it before we move on.
Right. It just tends to be something like, like a lot of other design discussions about MMOs tend to kind of cycle around those. About the 4 types, because it's a useful tool. Like I said, I guess what we can talk. I could talk a little about like other types of categorizations. I talked a little bit about Nicole Lazaro's 4 keys of fun. I mentioned that Bartle didn't do any empirical research on. Bartle didn't do any empirical research. He basically just kind of did observation. Someone did come along and do some empirical research, Nick Yee, and he kind of identified 5 different motivations from his research. the caveat. So one of the interesting things is he didn't find much of the explorer motivation. The caveat I would give with that is that the game he basically took a lot of his data from was EverQuest, and this is
Right.
after EverQuest was a couple years old. EverQuest was one of the first games to kind of to kind of cater very specifically to the achiever types, and it was also kind of came around. Like a lot of automation was starting to happen with MMOs, particularly with the gathering of data into third-party sites.
Mm-hmm.
EverQuest in particular didn't have, despite the name, didn't have a whole lot of quests as we know them today. Most of the quests that you would go on were things that were pretty well hidden in the game. You were intended to kind of find them, but they led to kind of very big rewards, like relic weapons and things like that.
Right.
And so the and so what happened a bit was that a lot of what happened with explorers, a lot of the kind of explorer jobs, were kind of offloaded into onto third-party sites. Basically, which is kind of the norm now. The explorer motivation. So one of the big things about explorers was that because it was an online game, because we're talking about online games, explorers would often share their information with others, potentially at a price.
Right.
Um,
Oh yeah, I'll tell you where to find this rare drop, but
right. You need to do something that and generally it was like, I want you to go do something that will give me resources to explore other things.
Right.
And so, but what happened was, with these third-party sites, like, a explorer basically had no leverage on a side. It's like, well, I'll tell you this if you do. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm already off. I'm already on,
Step 5 of.
Right, or I'm already all tabbed out, looking at Wowhead or console, the one of the wikis for Final Fantasy for Alakazam, one of the wikis for Final Fantasy 14, that type of thing. And so the fact that he didn't find any explorers in EverQuest was not exactly super surprising. I think not exactly an indication that explorers don't exist. I think it was more an indication that explorers don't exist in large numbers in EverQuest.
Right. Well, it's a categorization error, I think. Because, like, for a category to exist, the necessity for it to exist would have to.
Right.
So, like, if a category has been obsoleted by tools, then that category doesn't exist because it doesn't have a purpose.
Right. And so, well, I mean, Yi's work was kind of intended to be, it started basically, the hypothesis he started with was the Bartle types.
Right.
And, then he couldn't find, like you said, for example, he couldn't find the explorer type. So basically, so then the conclusion was, well, this type doesn't exist. Well, I think it's, more accurate to say this type doesn't exist for EverQuest at that point in its life cycle.
Right, he would have had to go looking at, like, Star Wars Galaxies. Or,
right.
Maybe even, like, Final Fantasy 11 might even have that.
Right. I don't remember the date of his original. It might have predated 11, Final Fantasy 11. Because yeah, it was it was very heavily based on he talked to players in EverQuest, and he talked to players in EverQuest and basically kind of like really focused on their experiences.
And just from the little bit of reading that I was able to do before we started, because I was planning on reading the whole paper you linked, but I slept in.
Lazy.
I know, but the whole thing is that Bartle's entire perception was actually a rather, at least initially, I don't know if he like expanded on it later, but it was a rather small sample size.
Right. I mean, well, it was a smaller sample size in terms of what we're thinking about now, but it was a pretty large sample size based on the number, like the players at the time.
Right.
Like I said, he wrote the first MUD, he wrote a sequel to it. Basically worked on a lot of other games. He's familiar with quite a few games at the time.
Right.
And so his sample size was pretty big compared to the people at the time, because his original paper was written in, I want to say 90 or 91.
It was 90.
Yeah.
But like his sample size was like 30 players, according to the preface of his paper.
Right. Well, I think it was larger than that, but I think he was talking about the
Size
games
of the
kind
MUD.
of basically had simultaneous peak usage of 30 players.
Right.
And he might have interviewed some people to kind of like to basically get more details for his he developed his player types based on his observation. He probably interviewed 30 people in order to kind of get to refine some of his ideas, given actual people's experiences. You might have, and probably what he did is he probably went to people he knew and that play his games, like, oh hey Mary, you are what I consider to be a socializer. Can I ask you these questions? And
Right. Yeah, I just like, I was looking at his numbers and I'm like, being a science and stats person, I was like, would like to see some bigger numbers there, but okay.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, and that's basically where you get Yee's research. Like Yee did, Yee had basically like several thousand people that he questioned from EverQuest.
Gotcha. God, I hate the cores and the knockdowns and the.
Yeah.
I bet.
Oh, there's an Octavia nearby. Where is this? Oh, there's a frame fighter. Let's see if I can find it. This is the fun and frustration of having Helios auto-scan stuff for you. Oh, there it is. There you go. Okay, there's some character data there. Octavia.
Oh, I don't have Octavia yet. Oh yeah, I
If you're doing
found
the frame
out
fighter thing.
one of my friends on Final Fantasy 14 plays Warframe.
Oh yeah.
And they're a big fighter fan, a fighter game fan.
Oh.
It was not Necros for me.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So it's different for everyone.
Yeah, it might be one of those things that, if you find in the data, then it gives you something you don't already have.
And they're like, "Do you have fighter frame yet?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Blasphemy!" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I keep buying more important things like Exilus slots."
The first step is admitting you have a problem. Ooh, I found Arkansas array.
Oh, nice.
And even without having Necros, we're doing fine on the oxygen.
Yeah, we got a good mob density here. I hope everyone in the chat's having fun here. It's a little lower energy than last week, I think, but I think we're fine.
We're talking about much more kind of nerdy specialist
Right.
topic, and so hopefully people kind of finding this at least a little interesting. Like I said, it kind of it helps kind of in looking and discussing MMO design as a kind of a more general, more broad concept. But Yee's work is also worth checking out if you're kind of curious about player motivations. He definitely found kind of a achiever, explorer, and socializer. I don't remember he kept those names for it. But then he also he identified escapist motivation.
Okay.
Which is basically could be more directly related to role playing, basically.
Oh, like escaping. Okay.
Right. Escape. Kind of like not escaping reality.
People playing, they don't want to think about real world stuff or real world issues or.
Right. They kind of want to just escape into a fantasy setting type of thing.
Okay, I was gonna say that wouldn't that be more socialism, but not necessarily.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. Role playing is kind of an interesting thing. It is kind of a little bit of a socializer motivation, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I mean, you can RP by yourself, but it's kind of a role player.
Role playing with yourself isn't very fun.
I mean, you're basically. I mean, I've done it before. I did it for years when I was doing, like, I was continuing a character story with a friend over like Skype after I quit the game that we played together.
Mm-hmm.
But she ended up just being really, really busy, so she didn't have time to contribute. I mean, it's still socializing though, but like I ended up just writing the stories myself for her to kind of amuse her.
Right. You were writing for an audience of two, yourself and your friend.
Right.
Right. I can see that. But like but the I think the issue is like the socializer as Bartle describes it, or can sell at my waypoint. The socializer as Bartle describes it tends to be more of a it tends to focus more on out of character type of interactions.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of chatting and hanging out and whatnot.
Hi, Pumpkin. I'm not ignoring you. I just didn't have my chat up.
Is the rotation over at 20 or 25?
20.
Okay.
But we can really just push for however long we want, to be honest.
Sure, I just was wanting to know where the endpoint was.
Yeah, AABC.
Yeah, that's the universal cycle.
Why they did 2 A's is beyond me, but whatever.
To make you suffer.
I guess so.
As a developer, nothing is more satisfying than player tears.
You can say this with
confidence and authority.
Gotcha.
Better if they collect them into a cup so we can savor them like a fine wine.
Whoa!
Just saying,
Well, this took a turn.
Look, yeah, I'm an honest person.
Sometimes I wonder. Not
Question
really.
my motivations.
Oh my god, I love the snaps. Like, it's such of a precise and yet, like, widespread damage thing, because all I have to do is just turn it slightly. Thank you for the follow. Big Mikey Ocho? Mikey Ocho.
Yeah. Oh, it's Ocho.
Oh,
He played DDO with me way back in the day. He's another blogger.
oh, nice. Thank you for the follow and hanging out with us. Sure, you have stories.
Yeah, the MMO blogger community was actually pretty strong. It's still going pretty good. There was an event called Blogist recently, which is a one of the bloggers hosts it, and it's basically, you know, you're supposed to blog every day in August, once a day every day.
Interesting. Wasn't
Yeah.
that your release posted month?
No, that was that was actually the month I actually posted after not posting for several months.
Oh, I
think
gotcha.
about 4 months. Kind of the exact opposite. Like, Blogist was kind of the motivation for me to actually get off my ass and actually go blog. But yeah, it's like, so yeah, the MMO bloggers used to be kind of a, you know, a big thing, you know, back when blogging was kind of
Before
a
they
bigger,
were hunted to the four corners of the earth.
and basically
Oh, really?
before, you know, Twitter witticism and Facebook posts hidden behind a login or became a thing. I mean, but there's still quite a good number of MMO bloggers. So if you like what I'm talking about, I have a blog at psychochild.org.
That's right. You plug your stuff.
That's right. And then yeah, and then I have a blog roll. I don't think I have Ocho on my blog roll. I stopped updating after a while. Like,
Wow.
well, I stopped posting for a while, so, you know, I should go through and probably clean out, you know, the dead links and whatnot.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask. I should have asked this in private, but do you want me to set up a plug for you on the screen?
Well, probably good eventually, but you know, you said we can talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, it's all good. Because one of the things I was gonna do today was set up the plugs for like my YouTube, where I archive all the videos, and my Twitter, because I should post when I go live on Twitter now. Maybe let me look at that. I don't know. It's supposed to be an automated system with one of my bots.
Yeah, I've kind of something similar with my my Twitter. When I post on my blog, it throws out a notification.
I have 2 followers on Twitter. Holy shit. That's a whole other. Yeah, I do broadcast when I go live now. Yay.
Cool.
So if you want to follow me on Twitter, I don't even know my Twitter handle. What is it? @Mulgrim425. Because I couldn't get just Mulgrim. Somebody stole my Twitter. Oh, I need to be buffing. Shit. I know, I have one
Slacker.
job. I had one job. What if I could get some freaking
Well,
buffs?
You have two jobs: not being stupid and buffing. But you already failed the first one, so.
Yeah, basically.
No, I can't argue with that.
But the mood still strikes. Oh, you do Twitch and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
You do the stuffs and the things. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, I've done a lot of guest podcasting, so this is one of the reasons why like this little format that Mulgrim and I talked about kind of works for me, because podcasts are kind of fun. We thought kind of combining mindless playing of games and dying with talking about academic subjects like Bartle's 4 player types would be interesting.
Yeah, I hope this format works out. As long as the gameplay doesn't get too complicated and
right. We all like shut up as we're like fuck.
yeah, let's go do some savage raids while we podcast.
Right. And then it just becomes recriminations at that point. I don't care about this stupid podcast happening. Why do you keep standing in the fucking fire?
Because it's my friend.
Exactly. It's the swimming pool, and I am a dragoon.
Oh my goodness. I peaked my mic. What am I shooting at? I'm shooting at nothingness. And yeah, stuff, things.
But yeah, and so the idea of player motivations is kind of interesting. More recently, someone was looking at types of fun based on what's called the Big Five personality types, which is a kind of a way of measuring, a way of kind of like describing personalities. It's also called the ocean or canoe, depending on which type of acronym you like. But it basically it measures 5 dimensions of a personality. O is openness, C is conscientiousness.
Is this one of those things that corporate managers really like?
Not really. This is something that psychologists like, which eventually becomes something that usually the corporate managers like because they want to pretend. Oh fuck, we're gonna get the Juggernaut soon.
He's already up.
What was the last time a Juggernaut was actually threatening?
These guys can hurt because we've been in here for 25 minutes, so nearly 25 minutes, so it ramps up the shit.
We will all share in this bounty. Hold out as long as you can.
I wouldn't notice because I keep pointing my gun down the hallway and things die.
Ow, ow, ow.
If I actually
ow.
stay near Malgrim, my Amprex just throws out red crits nonstop.
Yes.
Well, it defaults to yellows anyway because of my ribbon.
I need to eventually build a Zaw so I can actually use my one good ribbon.
Oh, you have a Zol ribbon?
Yeah, I have the Plague Creep Path ribbon.
Or you could sell it for all the platinum.
Yeah, I mean I could do that. But it's like my one good. It's the one ribbon I have for something actually worthwhile. I guess I have a couple Opticore ribbons. I got one that was half decent.
Go Juggernaut. Yeah, I got a really good ribbon on my Synapse. That just red crits, orange crits, it doesn't matter, all the crits. And that's why I use it on friggin' Haro.
Get all the amp experience. All right.
Nice.
This vamp is pretty good. It's fucking mowing these things down. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try it out. Oops. So, are there any other additional traits?
oh yeah, so C is conscientiousness, E is extroversion, A is I forget what A is, N is neuroticism. It's so funny to see your body get yanked while you're in your operator mode. My Warframe got yanked while I was in operator mode. But so basically, designer Jason Vandenberg did a talk
A
at
is agreeableness.
agreeableness. That's right. Yeah, but he did a kind of a talk about this and talked about like looking at this as like like types how you can kind of build fun things in a game based on these personality traits.
Right. I'll get you some energy in a minute. There we go. Trying to get my shields up so I can get us another big fire rate buff, but there we go. That'll do.
And so it's less about it's a little bit about player categorization, but yeah, like designing certain things for players like that.
Just understanding the personality types.
Right.
And understanding what to look for to provide content.
Right. And kind of like with the understanding of sometimes you're gonna get if you kind of cater to this one type of player, you might lose this other type of player. If you cater to players with high neuroticism, you might get you might not be able to appeal to the low neuroticism players.
Look what our Tenno operative just found. I could not do this without you.
Which, again, I don't feel like a lot of MMOs quite keep the variety.
Well, like I said, my opinion is like a lot of games tend to kind of focus on achievers to almost the exclusion of everything else.
Right.
And like I don't think this is necessarily kind of a conscious decision to begin with. And a lot of games that have come since then are basically just kind of like copying what previous games did. And I mean, to be fair, it's
Sorry.
to be fair, it's one of those things where you definitely have a it's been very successful. It's kind of hard, trying to cater to other types of players is more difficult because like nobody's done it.
Right.
I did work on a project where we explicitly wanted to cater to explorer types.
Mhm.
It was it was based on a series of games called the Anno series, or it's Anno, and then a year. In the U.S., they were called Anno 1701, but in the U.S. they were usually called 1701 AD. But they were kind of Age of Colonization games, primarily,
Mm-hmm.
where you would, it was about exploring new areas and then basically setting up production chains to satisfy player needs of your workers, and kind of building them up like that. But we were going to do an MMO version of it, and we explicitly wanted to go after explorers instead of
Right.
achievers. Kind of the dual thing of like World of Warcraft and whatnot have the achievers. So we want to go with explorers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it was basically kind of talking about figuring out how to a lot of our work was about figuring out how to
Satisfy
them, and what kind of gameplay they would. The big danger you run into is how do you do it so that it's true exploration and not just
achievement.
Right, exactly. And so the other thing that this is kind of where my what I talked about earlier tonight, talking about having generating currency in games and just have a stat. I mean, this is part of that. This is part of the design of that game, was something where to get rid of money as an achievement focus.
And did that project go anywhere, or did it?
Sadly, no.
Oh, that's sad.
I was working for we should do a podcast talking about the fun and excitement of game business sometime. But so basically what happens is I was working for a German company, the German publisher that owned the rights to the Anno series. As we were working on the project, the publisher sold the rights to the Anno series to Ubisoft.
Uh-huh.
Which means that the publisher got a lot of money and made off like a bandit. The
And
downside
you got
is
nothing.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, the good news is I hadn't moved to Germany at that point.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And the owner of the company, basically stood to profit pretty well. I was like, oh, don't worry, we'll figure something out.
Right.
And so it was like, great. And so so he but Ubisoft basically, his whole attitude was like, front that he wanted to keep a license to this. He's like, oh, we'll negotiate a license later. And of course, Ubisoft had zero interest in having competition for any of their stuff. So it was very much a thing of them going, for example, one of the things, kind of talking about free-to-play games, we wanted to do a free-to-play model, and Ubisoft's like, no, you need to do a subscription model.
Right.
They were very much, very. This is what I heard, at least. They wanted to have a lot of control over it, and control, in ways that we, basically kind of the metaphor I said was they were like, jump through this hoop, jump through this flaming hoop, and now jump through this flaming hoop with spikes, and it felt like they kind of tried to make it harder and harder and harder, from what I was hearing, to do the project.
And they didn't do it.
Yeah, and so basically, then it was just the game didn't go anywhere. And there was a lot of other little problems, game business is such a brutal thing, such a horrible, brutal thing that it's just, sometimes if you know much about games business, sometimes you just kind of get surprised in general that games get made at all.
Right, because it's just such a, I don't know, inefficient business.
Yeah, and part of this is it's.
Ow.
Part of this is wanting to kind of run the game run the games business like a technology business, where things are very kind of predictable and where things are very much more predictable and plannable. The kind of the holy grail for a lot of business managers, or a lot of producers in the games industry is they want to be able to kind of be able to set down a schedule and say, okay, this is going to take exactly 3 months. the big problem you have is that when you have something where you don't, if you're not cloning an existing game, you never know if something's gonna be fun until basically you start putting things together.
Then you get the end product or something that resembles the game, and you can go, "Oh no, this doesn't work."
Right. Or this, these aspects don't quite work right.
Yeah, that reminds me of a behind the scenes thing I watched for from Blizzard. They were talking about the behind the scenes for making Cataclysm. And the underground zone. I forget what it was called. Earth something. Earthholm, I think.
Earthholm, yeah.
They wanted a mechanic where like people would be able to like go inverted upside down onto the ceiling. Like an anti-gravity thing. And like they had their tools department, making all the tools to make this possible, and this, that, and the other. But and it took them like 6 months to develop the tools.
Right.
And by the time that they actually had the tools done, the design team had already like moved on. Like, oh no, we don't need that anymore.
Right.
So they had these complete like tools made, and they didn't get told that like the design team had moved on until after they'd finished them. And then it's just like, well, why didn't you just tell them that you okay? Like, okay, Blizzard, you do Blizzard.
Right. Well, I mean, that is generally kind of the role of what we call a producer. Like the producer should have been kind of aware of what the left hand and what the right hand were doing.
Right. And like everyone in the interview, like the tools team, they're all like smiling, chipper, and like, yeah, we won't use them now. We'll figure out a use for them later. I'm like, you never did find a use for those, did you?
Right. But of course, that you sometimes get the opposite thing too, where designers want something, and then the tools and tools programmers and whatnot, just can't get it to work.
Right.
I worked on one game project where the designers kind of wanted flying enemies, like truly flying enemies that would kind of like dive bomb out of the air and whatnot. And the programmers were just like, no, we can't do that with the engine, with the engine we're starting with.
Right.
And so, kind of designers had to, they eventually kind of got pseudo-flying enemies. I mean, basically flying enemies like what TNM does these days now.
Right, and then they have an attack that creates an AoE while they animate swooping.
Right. Or, their flying is basically like constant, 2 feet above the ground.
Right.
They don't actually fly through the air. They're
their animation is
right. They're just like any other monster, but the model animation makes it look like it's a bird.
I'm a bird.
Right.
Walk.
Do we want to bug out?
They could not do this without you.
I don't know. Like,
I'm fine with either. I don't think we've been particularly.
Not really having any issues yet.
I think we can do another 20 minutes unless you want to get going.
Well, I need to check on my dog. So.
Okay. We can get going.
Yeah, well, I think we've had a good run here.
I guess it is almost 10, so we've been gone for almost 3 hours.
Yeah. We're at 2:45. But that's good enough for me. So we'll get to extraction, and then we'll kind of call it there, I think.
Yeah, it works for me.
So I hope everyone had fun with our riveting conversations and found this topic to be interesting. We'll try to come up with something interesting. I want to talk about Perfect World. No.
Just like the rest of us just shut up and play, and then you go on a 3-hour bitch session.
Actually, I didn't play Perfect World that much. I just I didn't get far enough into the game to experience the pay to win mechanic.
Right.
But I've heard. Well, no, I played Forsaken World, which is a Perfect World International game. That was bullshit. But yes, Pumpkin, thank you for the perfectly timed emote. Oh, we got lots of relics out of that.
Yeah, we did. You got 40 mutagen samples.
Woo! 40?
And I was doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, look at you.
Well, yeah, freaking Amprex, man. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. We'll figure that out. So feel free to check out Psychochild's blog at, what was it, psychochild.org?
Yep.
I will be uploading this and all podcasts to my YouTube channel, which is YouTube/Malgrim. I'll have a slash for that probably by next week. Mitter, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nope.
Mitter has a dog.
Yeah.
And one thing that I like to do at the end of my streams is to find another Twitch streamer to raid to show them some appreciation and some love. That's not what I wanted. Learn how to type. There we go.
Why start now?
I have no idea. The teacher's playing Fortnite. The teacher is a streamer I like to hang out with. He's a fun guy. He's an actual teacher, and he loves to talk about it. So, if you want to hang out with him, feel free to ask him about it. And we'll see everybody next week. Maybe.
Have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, next week. Yeah.
Yep.
Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And oh, they changed rating. Okay. And we'll see you next time.